I don't know why I'm dancing, but I am. I don't know. I'm in a bouncy mood.
Okay, are we ready to record?
I feel ready.
Absolutely.
Okay. Hi, friends,
Hello, Poppets.
Howdy, y'all.
and welcome to Muppet Sex and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make the Costume Codex videos on YouTube.
I'm Jack Kramme, editor / right-hand man for Passion of the Nerd, editor for Chipperish Media, and co-host of Podcast of the Nerds.
And my name is Josh Gosdin, and I'm just a big old nerd.
And that's enough. And we are here to talk about the episode Exodus from Genesis. This episode was written by Ro Hume and directed by Brian Henson. It's Brian Henson's only turn in the director's chair, aside from the miniseries at the end. The crew are going about their day when Aaron notices a problem. There is a Peacekeeper Marauder vessel in the area searching for them. Luckily, there is a crowd of strange debris,
Pilot, stay behind the debris.
and the Marauder leaves. For now. Unfortunately, the debris is actually a swarm of bugs, and they board the ship. Strange things start to happen to the ship, beginning with a slow, steady rise in the temperature. Turns out this could be a problem for Erin, as we learn her species has a specific weakness when it comes to heat.
Need delirium?
A kind of brain damage that leaves them in a permanent coma.
It's the only time we kill our own from mercy.
She asks Crichton to promise that if this happens to her, he will end her suffering. As the crew attempts to fix the heat problem, Crichton confides to Zahn about his struggles to adjust to life on board, and feeling like he isn't respected. She counsels him that respect is earned, and with Dargo and Aaron,
Actions speak to them.
action like fixing the heat. He gets enough action soon enough when he finds a giant bug in his quarters that is definitely not just the DRD puppet repurposed. Dawn kills it and brings the remains to Zahn, who makes a discovery.
It's Crichton's DNA?
The heat continues to rise as the bugs take over the ship, and even start to make doubles of the crew to help. Dargo cuts a hole in the bulkhead so Rigel can get into a blocked chamber where he discovers the bugs have made a nest. Eventually, the bugs decide to communicate with the crew and use Zahn to speak for them.
I am monarch of the trap.
The swarm's monarch is reproducing and needs Moya to do it. John negotiates a deal that they will let the monarch do its thing as long as it lowers the temperature enough for Aaron to survive.
What the yacht's kind of deal is that?
All is going fine till Chekhov's Marauder sneaks aboard and a bunch of peacekeepers start stomping about. The monarch refuses to communicate until Rigel enters the nest to speak directly to it. Then John works with the doubles to drive away the heat-addled Marauder crew, while Zahn cares for a helpless Aaron. The plan succeeds and the peacekeepers leave, and in time, so do the bugs. As life returns to normal, John has another talk with Zahn, and talks about how quick he was to presume the bugs were primitive and to squish them. And when he checks on Aaron, she makes a similar observation.
You're not talking about the Drax, are you?
As they share a moment, she asks if he would have kept his promise. What did you think?
I had some fun with this one. Overall, it was reminded me of stuff like The Thing or Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Overall, like not my favorite episode so far, but I still enjoyed it. Yeah. What about you, Josh?
I had an absolute blast with it. I actually think this might be my favorite episode so far. I loved... Yeah, I caught some of the sci-fi homages that they were doing in this one, like also Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
And I just really was enjoying the ride the whole way through, and a lot of the like character interaction that we got to see, and I feel like I know where the budget for the first few episodes of the season went. It went to this episode, and it was just great. And now I know where your background picture is from there, Sara. That's the Drac.
Yeah, it's the swarm.
Right. I didn't pick that up. Okay, cool. Yeah.
It's just a cool image. I think that opening one is very cool. So where do we start with this one?
Can we talk about the the sort of the trope, the sort of invasion of the body snatchers trope.
Let's talk about the doubles.
Yeah, it's a trope that I quite enjoy, even though it's been done to death. But it's just something I really enjoy. But a slight criticism for me is just that I wish it was done in a more subtle or like, well, yeah, just more subtle way initially, because when not Zahn punches Crichton, I knew it was coming. There was no surprise. It was very obvious because we see, the bug sting Eren, and then it retrieves the stinger, and then there's a few other things along the way, and so I just wish that it was done in a more subtle way so I could be surprised when that happened. But I saw it coming from a mile away. But I still enjoyed it. Like it didn't really like bring it down or anything.
Yeah, I had a similar kind of like meh reaction to the doubles. I actually didn't see it coming until right before he walked up to Not Zahn, and Not Zahn was just kind of like really focused on the thing and ignoring him, and I was like, oh, that's why they wanted their DNA. And I feel like a lot of times in a doubles, a duplicate, an invasion of the body snatchers kind of a thing, the doubles make some kind of like thematic comment on the characters or on the world or on the setting, and I didn't really get a lot of that from this. It was just a plot device, and it was a fun one. Watching Ben Browder beat himself up was fun, but it wasn't a lot of like, it didn't reveal anything about the characters per se.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we learned a little about his, being beaten up in middle school.
Well, yeah. That was no shock to me.
I know that, Josh, last time you were saying how much you sort of wanted some continuity of some return of the peacekeepers. We don't know if they're here because of the beacon, or what, but we do now have the peacekeepers returning.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that they weren't a bigger part of the episode, because they're mentioned like right at the beginning, and I think, oh, cool. Like I thought, cool, yeah. Like we're finally going to get to see some peacekeeper action, but there's barely nothing really. They get on the ship and get all hot and sweaty, and that's it. But another thing that became apparent to me is I finally understand why we're doing it in this order now with this episode. Because on my Amazon Prime Video where I'm watching it, this is listed as episode 2, and it just wouldn't have hit as well as it did without all the previous character development that we've gotten. Especially with Eren, like very apparent with Eren, yeah.
Yeah, I know you had a conversation in the Discord the other day about how you didn't think it made that much of a difference. I was like, well, when we watch this episode, you will get why.
Now I get it, yeah.
They put it out second because it was second in the production order. This is the one they made at the same time as the premiere.
Right.
But yeah, I think we get the important stuff that happens in this episode, I think, is Eren's arc. And I think it feels weird to have this before, the episodes we've seen so far where she's, it would feel unearned for her to be trusting them this much.
Yeah.
And then
unearned. Yeah. That's a good word.
But so it worked, but this was the original order that it did air in Australia, at least.
Okay.
And then I guess it was written to come at this point.
That's fascinating to know that it was produced at the same time as the premiere, because the character interaction is like, kudos to the actors, because it doesn't feel like it was made that early. It doesn't feel like this was their second time on set together, But
I just think that Yeah. Like I said, it just wouldn't have hit as well as it did without all the character development that we've had.
I think plot wise, I can understand having this thing second because it feels like it picks up the Peacekeeper plotline, which was such a huge part of the premiere.
Right.
But character wise, and it really hit me in the scene where Dargo and John are helping Rigel go through the wall, and they have this conversation about Aaron and about like, do you want her to die? And like that would have felt weird in the second episode where Dargo's like, no, I don't want her to die. And if it was the second episode, I'd find myself saying, why not?
Yeah.
But if it's the fifth episode?
Yes.
Then that makes so much more sense. Like they've gone through shit together.
Yeah.
Look, human, for what it is worth, the part of me that wants Aaron to live is greater than the part of me that wants all peacekeepers to die.
I liked the buddy cop team up with Dargo and John, starting from the point at which they put Rigel on the wall, but then really ending in the standoff climax at the end where there's this really great moment where lead commando guy has his knife to Crichton's neck, and Dargo like hops up next to him, gun to the temple, and instead of pursuing Dargo's intentions and agenda that he had stated up at that point, which is basically just kill them all, he backed up John. He reiterated what John had asked. He was like, Crichton gave you a choice, and I was like, aw, they're working together.
Yep. Although one thing that I think we should address that they were working together on that I don't know what you guys felt about it, but the whole tipping Rigel out of his chair issue, I think is a bit problematic. I don't know, because I don't know if we call Rigel disability representation, because obviously he's not. He's just that. But the world that he's in, he needs an adaptation to live in, and them sort of taking his chair away like that felt very cruel.
Okay. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I mean, as someone who is disabled and in a wheelchair, I can confirm that being pushed out of your chair would suck.
If somebody did that to you, they better run, because I will get...
Yeah, better run, because I'll start crawling after them.
No, I will... They will have me to answer to yeah.
We'll get
Thankfully, it's never happened. Although one time I was at the beach and I had a wheelchair stolen by a bunch of kids. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast.
Some people are horrible.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when Dargo tipped him out of his chair, that was definitely a moment of callousness on Dargo's part. And Dargo, just in general, that's another thing about Dargo. Dargo in general, this episode was a little like, let them die for my taste.
Very fiery.
Yeah, and not really giving too much of a shit about anything other than survival. Mm-hmm. So when he dumped him out of his chair and tossed him to the wall, I was like, hey man, he was Rigel was scared.
Yeah, like chill out, man.
Which in the last episode in IET, we saw that Rigel's fear isn't always as selfish as it appears.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't applied a disability coding to Rigel's character.
Me neither.
I've interpreted the chair as not an adaptation, but an affectation of like, he was royalty, and so he just zips around and goes wherever he wants and does whatever he wants, kind of a thing. So I didn't catch that reading.
I think it's a bit of both, because of course, like, he is so very small in the world that he's in. It would be hard for him to, and this is the only time, this is one of the only times we see him walk, because it's really hard. It was really hard to do the CGI on that.
I saw.
Can I?
That was like Yoda and Phantom of the Menace bad.
Yeah.
That was so jarring to me, and I don't understand why they did it that way. They could have just filmed the puppet from like the bottom up and just had him sort of bobbing up and down or something. Like, I don't get why that shot was necessary because it looked awful. Even for back then, it looked awful.
Yeah, they never try to do that again.
Thank God, because that is like that was immersion breaking for me. I'm like, that looks like PS1 graphics. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, and then we see why. This is why they do so much puppetry. It's one sort of reading that I've heard of Rigel that I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered it, but I definitely will from now on. Yeah.
And I think there's an affectation of it as well, because obviously it's also, he's not going to have just a chair, he's going to have a throne. So
that's what it always, like, he's never without his throne. That's what I was always getting from it.
But it's also like, if they, just from a practical purpose, how would they film it if he was always on like 2 feet off the ground?
Yeah. I'm so baffled by that shot. I'm sorry, because there was, it's so unnecessary. They could have done something different, like just show the puppet bobbing up and down, or just anything like stop motion. Like anything would have been better than that. I don't get why.
It may have been time or something.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of the time with CGI, when it looks bad, it's usually a time issue because rendering takes time. Like and a lot of the time it can take a lot of time. So they probably ran out of time. And look, we're not talking about a show with a massive budget either. Like, it's got a decent budget, but I wouldn't call it like it's not a Netflix original or something, you know.
And it was 2000.
Yeah, right, yeah. But I loved Rigel's painting and how it looked like a children's painting. Like, I actually giggled. I loved it.
That's my level of skill.
Yeah, we don't get a huge amount of development for Rigel in this, but he was the character I was going to move to next.
Yeah. There's not like, I mean, he was kind of pivotal in a way.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, not necessarily a lot going on. But one of my favorite moments was right at the end when the Drac basically says goodbye. I forget, but what does he saying to Rigel? I don't know. It made me laugh. Though.
The encounter between us.
Yeah. Leader or something like that. Like, yeah. And like the look on Crichton's face was really, really, really funny. I should have written it down, but yeah, that bit made me laugh. And then Zahn takes over the painting and then paints his beautiful spirit painting. I'm intrigued, but yeah, like, is it like an aura kind of thing? Because she's sort of the mystical character, I guess.
I don't know, some kind of mystic something. We know she sees the best in people.
Yeah.
Ooh, you just said a thing. Sorry, just said a thing. It's a metaphor. The spirit painting with her super speed, that was interesting.
Yeah. Does she have super speed? Super strength?
Evidently when painting.
Yeah.
I was about to, like, is it only when she's like spirit painting, or can it also be when she's like dishwashing or kung fu fighting? Like,
I don't know.
The Rigel bit, I really enjoyed Rigel. This is more evidence for why I'm grateful that we're doing it in this order, because this feels like a very natural progression through the last few episodes with Rigel's character, from like all the way back to Throne for a Loss, when he's forced to kind of, like, he's literally brought down to earth. He's buried in mud. And up until, like I said, in IET last episode, where we see that a lot of his bluster and a lot of his kind of self-aggrandizing behaviors actually conceals massive insecurity.
Yeah.
Like where that moment in the nest where he like puffs himself up and he's like, the just a beautiful line where he said, "I come to you as a sovereign and also as your equal." Because he's talking to a monarch, and I was just like,
as both your equal and your humble petitioner.
That was like, damn, that was such a good line, and like the courage of his walking in there and he saved them at the end, but so that moment where Monarch Zahn, poor Zahn hardly got to be herself this episode, where Monarch Zahn, like, first of all, blows past Crichton, who's like, "I'm very humbled to and walks over to Rigel and says, like, I shall remember our encounter. I feel like, did they have sex? Did Rigel bang the queen? Because he literally walked into her birth canal. Like he was like, "I'm going to go talk to you straight up your vagina."
That's my head canon now. No one think you can change my mind.
They're aliens. I have no idea how their anatomy works, so I don't know.
Because that definitely felt like a very like tender, like goodbye lover kind of a moment.
I mean, and he's a frog and she's a bug.
What? Listen, I'm not here to kink shame.
And I just love how it was played for our comedy, as I said. Like, it just brushes past Crichton, and he's just like, "What?" Yeah, great moment. I forgot what I was going to say. Never mind.
Listen, is your heater broken, Jack? Are you experiencing short-term memory loss?
It's actually freezing cold here today. So yeah, I would bring on the heat.
Okay. Next, should we talk about Zan?
Yeah. See, is it Zan or Zahn? Because I've been calling her Zahn, but everyone was calling her Zan in this episode, so I don't know.
Well, only Crichton was calling her Zan, and since this was like episode 2 in the production, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I feel like in other episodes they were calling her Zahn, right?
Yeah, I feel like they figured out how to pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Like behind the scenes, they decided how to pronounce her name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uzoto Zan.
I'm really intrigued with Zahn. Like, I really want to know more about her and more of what she can do, and just how, I don't know. I just want to know more. I loved the spirit painting as I said, that was really cool. But we also got to see sort of a scientific side of her this episode too, which I wasn't expecting.
What can't she do?
Yeah, right. Like Zahn the scientist. Wow. Yeah. But yeah,
and
I don't
the counselor.
know what to. Yeah. She's like is it Deanna Troi? Yeah, I'm not sure what else to say other than just I love her and I'm really intrigued and I want to know more. I want to know lots and lots and lots more.
I really liked that final conversation that she had with Crichton, because that felt like such a relaxed, easy kind of a character moment where she's like leaning up against the wall and she's like, "Time and patience, buddy."
It was very you. It was very Josh.
Wow, thank you. That's high praise. But yeah, what can't Zahn do? Like next episode, they're gonna have her like building a suspension bridge on a planet or something, and episode after that, she's gonna raise wheat.
Yeah, she's just. And also loved how like she served as like the conduit for this episode, and she's just a badass too. She gets a big spike in her chest and just like pulls it out like all good. Like she's great.
I am curious about because it didn't require the ongoing presence of the Stinger for the Monarch to use Zahn to communicate. So I am curious if the Drac return like if that is going to come back at a later point. I can picture it. I can picture, the camera panning over to Zahn and her just like turning around and being like, "I'm the monarch of Jock," and cut to commercial. But
I am Legcutus of Borg.
I am
Hey,
Legcutus of Borg.
They're very Borg-like now that I'm thinking about it. There's something Borgy about them.
Well, the Borg are very insect, and so
yeah. And there's also the shared consciousness and all that, which they appear to have in this episode.
Mm-hmm. That's what I got too. But I also got very aliens, like even the production design of the nest itself, the way that the eggs came out of the birthing canal. I'm really sorry for this hand gesture.
But would you guys say they're bad eggs?
Can I just say, yeah?
Come on, Buffy had to get mentioned. I'm sorry.
Maybe the Mother Bazoar just wanted to return her young.
it did kind of operate like the Bazoar. How about Crichton's? Crichton in this episode, his development.
He walks into a room holding the head of a replicant, and I'm just like, whoa, like, holy shit. That shocked me.
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, like, and he rips off Nod Aaron's arm. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, wow.
John Crichton.
Yeah, he is just a badass in this episode, and I love how he, because I've talked before how he seems very he's full of bravado and kind of hot-headed, and he's kind of like the action hero, but he resolves this conflict by being very calm and thoughtful and sort of seeking out a mutual agreement that benefits both of them, and I really appreciated that.
So yeah, me too, man. I loved the kind of the arc of earning Aaron and Dargo's respect through action, and still John's actions are still very authentic to John. Like, he still was not doing what Aaron and Dargo were like urging him to do. And Dargo was like, "Kill them all," and Aaron was like, "No, kill me." And he was like, "I'm not killing anybody."
Except the double that looks like him.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but he was just like everybody chill.
Yeah.
But the moment when he whipped around and when Monarch Zon was first talking to them and he whipped around to Dargo and he was like, "We started this." I was sitting here and I was watching it and I was like, there it is. There's the meat of this episode that I've been wanting, because up until that point it was a very Invasion of the Body Snatchers. It was a very like aliens. It was a very infestation kind of a plot line. But when that turn happened, that's the Farscapian subversion that I've come to know and love and crave.
Yeah, even though I had fun with the episode, it took me a little bit to get really into it. I think, yeah,
It's a slow build, this one.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but it's I just wish, as I said before, I wish it was done in a more subtle way, the trope. But I also and because it wasn't done in a subtle way, it was missing a lot of suspense that could have been there.
Okay, yeah. I'll let you know this is not the last time that we see doubles.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
I'm not telling you any more, but we do get, they do make more use of the whole, body double thing.
Would you say they double down?
And there's the dad joke of the episode.
There it is.
What was I going to say? I was going to say something. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Well, then let's move on to the biggie. Aaron's story.
Claudia Black's performance in this episode is gorgeous. I loved it so freaking much. And I love how they keep building her out and fleshing her out and sort of humanizing her. And I love seeing her sort of grapple with her past and the things that she's done. Because, I mean, at one point, I can't remember exact wording, but she kind of seems to allude to the fact that she kind of deserves to die or something, or she believes that she's not really worth saving.
Why would the others care? My kind imprisoned them. I'm sure they haven't forgotten.
Oh, my freaking heart, man. Oh, yeah, she was definitely like the emotional core of this episode for me.
No, same for sure. And that scene with Pilot I really enjoy, because I also give Pilot some nice depth this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually get to see like a wide shot of him, and that puppet looks amazing.
Doesn't it though?
It's the best puppet on the show by far.
Jeez.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
And Pilot actually got to emote. Like Pilot chewing out Dargo. He was like, "How dare you cut into Maya without the snow fast?"
Yes.
Yeah.
And then like comforting Erin and catching her before she fell, and I was like, "You guys!"
And it is strange to be this near a peacekeeper that I don't fear.
And he goes, "And that is a compliment." And but the Erin, it was definitely the emotional core of the episode for sure. It was, it's hard to articulate this. It left me wanting a little bit more. I don't know if it didn't go deep enough for my tastes, or if maybe this is the first step on an emotional journey of some kind or something like that. But I definitely like, in as much as she provided a lot of emotional anchor, she was also something of an object in her own story, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like everything, the action was revolving around her, and they were doing things with her and for her and to her, and she wasn't doing much other than what she was doing. And see, this is what I'm saying. It's hard to articulate. I don't know. I just wanted more. I think that's really what it kind of boils down to.
Yeah. I agree. Like I'm not getting impatient as such, but I'm like, come on, show us. Like where is this going? Please, just tell me. Like I want to see more. But that's the mark of a good show, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. When I want more, that's a good thing. It's a good problem.
I really love this episode because we've definitely set up that she is a badass. Like she, prior to this, we know she is the warrior. She can kick the ass of like anybody. And we've seen little tiny touches of vulnerability, but then we get this major vulnerability here, and she is helpless. But she's not treated like a damsel that they have to save.
No.
And she knows what she wants. Asking them, and that she's forced to trust Crichton. I think when she gives him the speech in the beginning about how she doesn't need family or friends. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want or need anyone, and then to have to actually need them, and So I really love this. Just sort of, and also like one moment that I really appreciate is that Crichton looks to her before he says crank up the heat, and he makes sure she consents.
Yep. I caught that, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked her, at the beginning when she was like, so what are we? Are we family? Are we friends? And then towards the end, she goes, a friend would kill me. Family would do it quickly. Mm-hmm. Like, that hurt. That was ouch.
What are we? Some kind of suicide squad? Sorry.
And she tells us this is the only time they kill their own for mercy.
Oh, it's so good, man.
She did so well.
Claudia Black, yeah, she nailed it. She's best performance in this episode by far. And I was wondering, like, when she first gets stung, I was wondering if she was like poisoned. But then, the little thing comes out and retrieves the sting, and I'm like, oh, so DNA, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stingers. Well, first of all, these dumbasses getting stung and being like, huh, I wonder what that is.
Yeah, right? What's with that?
These dumbasses. And I say that with a lot of love and affection because I feel like that's kind of the point, that they were kind of dumbasses a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because in almost any other show that we all watch together, if that had happened, like, someone would, look with like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then they would all like sit down and try to figure it out. But no, they were just like, that's so weird. Oh my God.
Well, what do you do when you get a splinter or stub your toe?
I don't live in space. Like, I expect to get a splinter or to stub my toe, but if I lived in space and something strange happened, I would be like, something's happening, guys.
Also, like,
yeah, but space is normal to them.
Yeah,
the little barb shoots out, I think.
Yeah.
Like, so it's I don't know.
I don't know. I think, like, the way that Aaron plays it off, like, oh, metal splinter. Clearly, that is a thing that happens.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is where John is such a great addition to the crew, is that he is used to none of this. So anything that happens, he is going, is that weird?
Is this what's supposed to happen? So then,
yeah.
I mean, okay, fine. Maybe I'm John, but like it. Yeah, if I lived in space, I would pay attention to weird shit that happens.
Also, just quickly, John is much braver than I, because if I was confronted with that bug, I would GTFO. Like, what the hell? Like,
bug.
Such a creepy looking, disgusting thing. Once again, like, the puppetry and everything on this show is incredible. I was also reading, because after I watched the episode and I'm looking at my notes and whatnot, I like to look up, like IMDb trivia and stuff. And I was reading that the bugs were actually really, really expensive. That's why there wasn't a lot of shots of them. Yeah.
The bug CGI looked a lot better than the Rigel CGI.
Yeah.
Still wasn't great, but it's better than Rigel. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've ever seen, and we probably won't see any, like, truly great CGI in this show, and that's okay. That's okay.
There's some pretty stuff when it's all CGI and it's pretty. Like when it's basically just animated, it can be quite pretty. Yeah. It's when they try to mix it into the real life that it When we get to the miniseries, there is some better CGI.
Okay.
That's interesting, because I was just thinking that I think in the CG shots of the bugs, where the bugs are CG and not puppets, they're the only things in the shot. So they probably just went on ahead and did a CG mat of the set, versus Rigel's CG actually walked into the physical puppet of the monarch. That's interesting. Okay, I didn't catch that.
It's much easier to do a CG shot if everything is CG, because when you're doing a composite shot, you have to try to match lighting and everything, which is really difficult. And when you get the lighting wrong, that's one of the worst things that breaks the immersion. It makes it stand out a lot more.
Interesting. The puppet of the monarch was astonishing. Like the nest and the monarch, the shadowy like appendages and everything, and Jack, I chuckled earlier when you said that it wasn't very suspenseful. I don't like bugs. I don't do well with bugs, and so I spent this entire episode like tense.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I was especially. My God, especially when John found the bugs in his quarters, I was like, no.
I probably should have given a content warning, bugs.
It's too late, Sara. We're already here. And he like turned around and it was right in his face, and I was like, "That's it. That's death."
I also love when Rigel is down with the bugs, and he realizes that they come after him when he moves, and I think he's talking to Dargo, and he's like, they move when I move, and Rigel's like, right, then don't move. And then he's like, if we ever survive this, Luxon, you must become my advisor.
that cracked me up. Yeah,
that was really funny.
I actually had in my notes that Dargo was feeling like some ADHD representation to me. He was feeling very ADHD. One is the sort of state the obvious, and like it just has no concentration and no patience, but goes all in as soon as he's got a direction. He just kind of goes all in. So yeah, there was just something very familiar. Not that I would cut into my walls impatiently.
Sure?
I don't think I've ever done that.
Are you sure, Sara?
I've done a number of stupid things because they seemed like a good idea. I didn't think them through, including painting walls. But I didn't actually. I've never cut into a living being. The sort of like the things like, then don't move.
That cracked me up, but for a different reason. This being production number 2 makes a few things make a lot more sense. I don't think that they, behind the scenes, had settled on the pronunciation of Zahn's name yet, because characters are calling her Zahn and characters are calling her Zan. And I don't think they quite got the hang of Rigel's puppet yet, because, or Rigel's CGI, apparently. Because in that scene where he's like, they only attack when I move, he's moving the entire time he's talking. He's like, I'll just have to stand still so that they'll ignore me. And I'm like, you're killing me, Smalls.
Great how that looked on the Zoom recording.
I mean, that shot was better than the CGI.
It absolutely was, yes. It was just it was like, guys, come on. You're moving the puppet while you're saying don't move.
Yeah.
It's probably quite difficult to...
I'm sure it is. I have nothing but sympathy for the Jim Henson Company.
This was directed by Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son, and he's also the current chairman of the Jim Henson Company. This must have been pretty early in his career, I imagine. But Sara, you said this is his only directing credit in the show?
Apart from the miniseries, but he is heavily involved in producing.
Yeah. Okay. One thing I was reading in the trivia that he made a deliberate choice to make this episode like look and feel very different from the pilot episode.
I can tell.
Yeah, it's very apparent.
There were a lot of shots that felt like they were from the Bugs' perspective. Like, obviously, there were shots that were obviously from the Bugs' perspective because the lens was different. Yeah. But there were a lot of low-angle shots, a lot of like Dutch angle almost, that kind of painted the characters as larger figures, larger and more imposing figures.
That's what they could have done with Rigel going into the nest. Sorry, I'll let it go.
Will you? Will you?
No, I won't. Absolutely not.
Just never let Jack. Never let go.
Don't let go.
Don't let go.
Oh, never let go.
There it is. I was actually going to comment on the directing because I feel like this episode had a very particular flair to it. So there's a lot of the low angles, but also I don't know. The characters just seemed so natural, so comfortable.
Yeah. Which, again, would have been weird for an episode 2.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, giving us the slow pace and just building things like, in the building of the heat and the little things and relying on the characters. Because this is very much a bottle episode, we stay on the ship. It just gives us a chance to really, take the time to dig into and give Aaron a lot of room for all that character stuff. So we talked about the conversation between Aaron and Pilot. Do we want to talk a bit about the final conversation on the deck?
Final conversation
on the veranda, the conversation between John and Aaron. Terrace, yeah.
I don't remember it too well. Josh, you go first. Sorry.
I actually really liked that. I felt like that was one of it seemed like there were a couple of new sets this episode, and that felt like one of them. I like it when they do stuff like that on this show, where they show something, but they don't necessarily like explain what it is or how it works. So like they're standing on the top exterior of Moya and not suffocating. So some sort of science is happening, and it was just a gorgeous shot. And then the conversation that they had together, Aaron having the same realization that John had, but about John instead of about the bugs.
Yeah, I love that scene because it was very humanizing for Aaron, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing that side of her, like a softer, more I guess emotional side, because I feel as though the peacekeepers are all about they're basically soldiers, switch off your emotional side and just get the job done, which is kind of what they do in the military in a way.
It's because she says, I always thought primitive beings were just to be were something to just not stepped on, but that was the word she used. Squashed. Yeah. So I think it tells us something very interesting about the peacekeeper mentality. I think we did already establish pretty quickly that they're fascists. That's the iconography they showed us, but I think they're actually showing us it's not just iconography. There is, clearly the mindset that Aaron has been raised with, and we also, the way she discusses her admiration for the Marauders, or for the
Commandos.
Yeah, the Commandos in the Marauder, that and how she wanted to join them, and and we see that they have. There's a contrast that we see Moya's crew taking care of each other. Even Dargo, as much as he's kind of being very gruff, we have a few moments. We have a moment where he touches Aaron. But we see no caring for each other between the peacekeepers. Right. The leader touches his crew to pick them up and make them keep going.
And I think Dargo, we sort of, in his own way, he showed then he cared, kind of, because I recall him saying that he didn't want Aaron to die. He didn't say it in a very caring manner, but I think that was Dargo's way of showing that he cares, in a way.
On the conversation on the terrace between Aaron and John, when she goes, "Would you have kept your promise?" I may have missed it. I don't think John ever actually promised to kill her. I think she just kept begging him to promise.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
And so her being like, "Would you have kept your promise?" I was like, he didn't say yes. There was nothing to keep.
Yeah. Right. She saw it as a promise.
Yeah.
And we get that incredible scene in the shower.
Oh, geez, yeah. That was so emotional. She's crying out for John.
Yeah.
I wondered how deliberate the choice of the peacekeepers and the lines that each of them were given was, because when the commandos squat up and come in and start, looking through things. It was the female characters who kept pointing out, hey, stuff's not right here. Maybe we should stop and think this through before we do anything. And it was the male characters who kept kind of pushing it through. And I wonder how deliberate that choice was.
I don't know.
Sorry.
I don't know. Because of course, we don't know if that was the, a deliberate choice for the peacekeepers, or if it was sort of, there is a tendency in fiction to give certain lines to certain gendered characters. Yeah, I'm not saying any more.
I also feel like their just visually, their eye tattoo things seemed a little weird to me. I didn't quite get it.
Their eye makeup was on fleek.
Yeah. It was great, but I'm just like, why? It looked fine, but it's like, why is that there?
They don't try that again. I guess that was a production decision.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll just headcanon that the particular, maybe it's Marauder thing.
That's what literally that's what I thought.
Okay. Maybe they were just, experimenting with identity. They're going through an emo phase.
You get back on the Marauder and they're like, cut my life into pieces.
Yeah.
Suffocation, no breathe. Maybe we should record on days when I have to work.
Punch drunk Josh. Oh no, that's going in the show. It is telling us more about who peacekeepers are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because I feel like we basically got nothing until this episode, right? And they sort of set them up to be like the Empire, like the bad guys, and I'm like, come on, let's get a move on.
We only get them through Aaron so far.
Yeah.
The design of the ship was an interesting choice. It looked like a Jeep. It looked like a Jeep in space, which at first was a little like, come on, y'all could have done, the headlights turned on even when it pulled out and I was like, you could have done better or different than that. But I was thinking about it, and that's a very evocative kind of an image of military, a Jeep or a Humvee or something to that effect. Especially, thinking about World War II iconography. If we keep tying it back to Nazis and fascism. So, again, back in Premiere, I was talking a little bit about the design of Krace's ship being immediate, visual shorthand for bad guys. And the follow-up here, I think, is a nice parallel.
And you notice every bit of Peacekeeper tech that we've seen so far, or a Peacekeeper design of any nature, we get the sort of black and white and red.
Yeah. Yeah, I caught that.
Yeah, we had it on the beacon last time, and we had it on the mat when Aaron was fighting with Matala.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Matala.
Listen.
Matala.
Check.
Oh. Yeah, I know, buddy. I know.
Hang in there. Deep breaths.
I just complicated feelings.
Don't worry, there are characters coming who will give you complicated feelings.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a treat for the folks out there who know what's coming.
I swear to God.
Cool. Well, I mean, we are called Muppet Sex and Trauma, so I'm sure there's... Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not very subtle.
Nope. Yeah.
So I wonder about... I wonder how wise it was for John to attempt to get Krace to back off by inflating the threat that he seemed to pose.
Okay.
because he gets them all to look like him, and he's like, you want to fight with us? Fine. That multiply this by thousands. And I was like, buddy, hang on. I don't know that you want to look more dangerous, because I feel like we've escalated the conflict. And there's definitely something to be said for standing up to bullies, but there's also something to be said for attempting to de-escalate, like he did with the drag, versus escalating something. And so I'm wondering, if the next time we see Grace, he's going to be like, look at the threat they pose. There's thousands of them, or whatever. But I was watching that and I was like, ooh, buddy, you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, it depends how much they remember in their heat delirium and how much he believes of what they say.
Well, sure. But this episode felt like the closing scene of Act 1. Like putting all 5 episodes that we've watched so far together as a single act in this story.
I think, yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah.
I think we've got a bit more that would consider probably Act 1. I mean, we'll make that judgment I think we'll have an episode when we finish the season where we just talk about the season as a whole.
Yeah, okay. That's a good idea. It's a great idea.
So any thematic things that jumped out at you?
Not really thematic, I guess. I just, like I said, I just love the whole invasion of the body snatchers trope, and even though I wish it was done a little differently here, I still enjoyed it a hell of a lot.
Racism.
Oh!
Right, big brain Josh time.
They kept, everybody was calling everybody by their race all throughout this episode.
Oh yeah.
Like they kept calling, Crichton, look, human, and then Rigel, when he was chewing out Dargo, he was like, damn it, Luxon, or juxt it, you Luxon, or whatever the curse was. And it was, it was all about Sabetians and peacekeepers and stuff like that. And then John's kind of revelation, with Zahn at the end, he was like, I didn't want to take the toothbrush bug. I didn't want. My first instinct was to kill this Drac that I saw in my room. Mm-hmm. And he goes, that was wrong. Like both of those were wrong. I just looked at them and made a judgment. And then tying that all the way to Aaron's kind of revelation about, I thought that lesser species were meant to be squashed. Like that's some, eugenics, totalitarian fascism. That's straight out of the Nietzsche handbook.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it didn't, this kind of goes along with the earlier comment that I was saying about the body snatchers. The theme didn't do much, but it was definitely there. The theme of racism, and kind of coupled with don't judge a book by its cover, kind of
which plays into the opening scene with the painting. Zahn sees a lot more in Rigel than anybody else. Mm-hmm. And then he rises to that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that's probably why I didn't really pick up on much of a theme, because it's not very it's not very in your face, It's not. Yeah, I just thought it was just a body snatchers episode, to be honest. But no, Josh, I think you're definitely onto something there, without a doubt. I didn't think of that.
I do. I do like that notion that Rigel rises to what Zahn says she sees in him. Mm-hmm. And if it's spirit painting, then it really is looking. At this point, I think Zahn knows Rigel the best out of everybody, because she's been with Rigel at some of his most vulnerable moments so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really spending
I'm thinking,
time getting to know him.
Yeah, and I'm really thinking Rigel's gonna come full circle and he's gonna have some sort of breakthrough where he kind of becomes a better person, even though he's not a person. Because right now he's very like self-centered and so self-aggrandizing, self-serving, and so I'm hoping that he's gonna have sort of a breakthrough or a breakdown or maybe like a rock bottom kind of thing, and he just tries to do better.
Well, none of them are like he's not human, but he is a person.
Yeah.
That's kind of the theme of the episode.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that I think we do also have a sort of diversity as strength thread here, in that the everybody coming from different places is able to see different things and deal with the challenges, whereas obviously the Marauders are not. I think one of the things I had in my notes is that Crichton's strength is his adaptability.
Mm-hmm.
And that we haven't really seen from any of the other characters, but because they're all settled into their world. I mean, Zahn, of course, but Zahn, it's not necessarily that's who she's become. So it's not necessarily an adaptation or a thinking outside the box so much as this is who she is. But Crichton is sort of a jack of all trades and seeing things. It's this fish out of water advantage, that he comes up with solutions that none of the others had come up with. Although we don't know what solutions Zahn would have come up with because she was possessed at the point.
Yeah, there's definitely also a theme of like family and taking care of each other, and I guess sort of doing the right thing by each other, I guess. And even just reaching agreements that are mutually beneficial, rather than being selfish.
Symbiosis.
Symbiosis. That's a perfect way to put it. Yes.
Everybody works together. The way she talked about Moya, she was like, Moya is our protector, but is also our servant. And she needs us, and we need her. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I feel like of everybody, Dargo's compassionate compass is lagging behind at this point. Everybody else has had an opportunity to make a leap forward, and we got some great development with Dargo, in back and back and back and back and back and back and back to the future. But it wasn't. I don't know. I think he's got a ways to go as well in terms of character growth.
I think he's very blinded by his culture and where he's from, I think. Yeah. But
the buddy cop dynamic that he's developing with Crichton, I'm really enjoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you guys think of the Dentic?
Oh, the little dentist bug thingy. Weird and gross, but also like, again, I feel like I say this every episode, but I love that they're building their own lore and their own thing, and that's something I've never really seen before. Like they're very creative, and it's almost like they're being very original in a way with their stuff. But I like that. It was fun.
We have a very organic world.
We really do. I was just thinking that.
A living ship and bugs to clean your teeth, and
because I feel like in like Star Trek or Star Wars or something that that would be like a somebody would like lean into a mirror and show their teeth, and like a blue light would turn on or something like that.
Yeah.
But this was just like somebody had to discover this bug, and then somebody had to somehow let it get into his mouth. And then they had to be like, say, I've got an idea, $1 million idea. and now there are dentic bugs everywhere. But it's a very like it really. I mean, it ties into to Zahn's line of the symbiosis kind of a thing. Like it's interacting with your environment instead of controlling your environment.
Yeah, because we also have the translator microbes, of course.
I always think about that in terms of, wait, they're not actually speaking English, they're speaking their own languages, and it's getting converted in Crichton's brain, and I don't know, it's just an interesting thing to think about. It reminds me of the scene in The Good Place where Eleanor and Chidney meet, and he's like, no, I'm actually speaking French. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Ben Browder gets very excited about that in the audio commentary for the premiere, because I have the Blu-rays now, so I was listening to the audio commentary, and he was nerding out about the whole idea that, and he was saying how much he wanted to see it in like other languages, so it would actually be.
Yeah.
He kind of wished they'd been able to like dub over, so they didn't appear to be speaking English, and yeah,
different lip movements.
Mm-hmm. It is just a cool Farscape thing that so many things that would be done by technology and other sci-fi is done by some kind of natural force. Yeah. Anything else you want to discuss?
Josh.
No, go ahead.
I don't think I have anything. I don't think so. If you have something,
other than to say that despite a couple of the criticisms that I've had, I really enjoyed this episode. Like it just felt like a lot of fun. It felt really well done, well thought through.
I agree. Yeah. Like I said, there's some things I wish were done a little differently, but it's still a good episode. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really like this one because I do feel it is a step forward in Erin's arc, and I really like her arc. And I can't really say a lot and much more without giving any spoilers away. But yes. So, in that case, should we move on to favorite parts?
Sure. My favorite part is probably Crichton stepping away from his dude bro facade, and just how he resolves the conflict through like calm and measured means, and something that's mutually beneficial, as opposed to just blasting the shit out of the bugs and being done with it. That's I liked that sort of that humanity in him, I guess. I really appreciated that.
Similar for me. Like I said, that moment, the first time that Monarch Zahn shows up and they're talking, and he like turns to Dargo and he's like, "We did this. We started this. Like we messed up." I loved that scene, and I loved just the tone shift. And Ben Browder's acting again. Like, my God, the man is working hard on this show.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, when Zahn was like, earn their respect through action, what I was imagining would happen was he would get to do something Dargo-like to impress Dargo, and Aaron-like to impress Aaron. But that's not what happened at all. He was very authentically John, and that's what impressed Dargo and Aaron, was that he was true to himself. He was true to his own values. He solved the problem in his own way, and it worked.
Yeah.
My favorite part is Aaron, and I honestly can't decide if it's her scene with Pilot or her scene at the end with John. I think I'm going to give it to the scene with Pilot. And just like there's so much there. Her recognizing what her species have done to the others, and her thinking that they wouldn't care for her, but then, that they wouldn't care about what she's going through, but then they do, and they do take care of her, and and Pilot's empathy, and keep an eye, folks, on the connection between Aaron and Pilot.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. That is something to watch going forward. And in this episode, I think that really is my favorite part, is just, and Claudia Black just is a talented actor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, next episode will be Thank God It's Friday Again.
Oh, okay.
And this one does have a bit of a content warning that there is a lot of discussion of bodily functions.
Oh, okay. Is
so
there another helium fart?
It goes beyond the... I don't think there's another helium fart, but there is discussion and of bodily functions. Okay. And so if that is something that makes you uncomfortable, I'm sorry. You may need to prepare yourself a bit for bodily humor. So yes, folks, next episode is Thank God It's Friday Again, followed by PK Tech Girl.
Oh.
PK Tech Girl?
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting titles.
Yeah. Just to let you know, folks, we have a Patreon if you want to support the show. And the link will be in the doobly-doo. And Jack, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at lackofsurprise1. That's all one word with a number 1 at the end. You can find me on my other podcast, Podcast of the Nerds, with my friend Ian Martin from Passion of the Nerd. And you can check out my work with Chipperish Media on the Still Pretty podcast.
And Josh, where can people find you?
I've carved out a nice, quiet little corner of Instagram where we'll just sit down together and we'll talk about food and we'll talk about self-care and that's if you want to do that, come on over. We're just right over there. At Josh Gosdin on Instagram.
Yes. Our Zon of the podcast.
I also have an Instagram, but I never use it. But you can find me there as well if you want to. I forgot. I'm Sara Ezzat. I do the Costume Codex channel on YouTube. You can find that on YouTube under the Costume Codex. Most recently, I did an episode where I did a video where I talked about how much I love Star Trek. And you will hear Josh's voice in it at one point. Spoiler alert, they like it a lot.
Yeah, strangely enough.
Oh my. I haven't read the comments.
You can find me on Twitter to just sort of saying my thoughts out into the world at Bluestock in Sara. BLUESTOCKISARA. And you can also find the show on Twitter at Muppet Sex and Tea. The letter, because we ran... Or Muppet Sex and T1, because we ran out of things, and all that will be in the doobly-doo as well. If you want to comment or whatever. And we have a Discord, which is free. You don't need to be a patron to join the Discord. The link as well will be in the blah, blah, blah. So...
Come on over, have some fun with us, and let's party. Let's hang out.
Yeah. So, yes, and join us in 2 weeks to talk about Thank God It's Friday Again. And it will be Friday again because I released the episodes on Fridays.
It's so perfect.
Wonderful.
Lovely.
So, yeah, thank you very much, ladies, gentlemen, and gentle thems. And that's it from us.
Thanks, friends.
Bye.
Talk?
We are talking. Jack is a very pretty man.
All right, I'm good. I'm good.
That's just going to be my sound check from now on. Whichever one of you says sound check, I'll just tell you you're pretty.
Sound check. Sound check.
Josh, you're a very pretty man.
Josh, you are the prettiest of them all. You are the prettiest belle at the ball. Yeah.
By the way,
I love you guys.
Josh, did you see the shirt that I sent him?
Ha! I love it.
It's my boy.
I love it.
It's
He looks so
good.
proud. There's a little bit of Rigel the First in you, Jack.
Absolutely. Do you know what? There probably is now that you mention it.